Yo, what is up, everybody? It's me, Thou here, back with the next part, that being part 6 for What If Subaru was Sukuna's vessel, aka Curse King Subaru, which you guys have been waiting for a while now. So I decided, hey, I released What If House was Melia's son yesterday. Let's go on our daily grind, which I've just recently started attempting and pushing for, and let's just hop another part onto this series, which everyone seems to like. So after this, I'll probably be doing What If Naruto's in Genshin Impact, or if you guys have one you want me to update more, make sure to, hit that down in the comments below. But anyway, that is enough waiting for me, enough stalling. Let's actually get into it, as well as a small recap for what happened in last episode, part 5, to part 6 of What If Subaru was Sukuna's vessel. Where am I? Subaru would be groggy, looking up as he sees the sun filtering through the windowsill, as well as, now sitting at the very end of his bed, two sisters who he's seen before. Did I die? Are we back here again? Subaru would be thinking. No, Sukuna would say. Unfortunately, no, you didn't die. But it was rather impressive how you could have. You were rather close. Just a little more. Oh, screw off, Sukuna. Not now. I feel like crap. Well, you should, considering you used almost all of your cursed energy in one blowout like that. Baka. Did you just unironically call me that? Yeah, what about it? You're such an idiot. Subaru, now in this conversation with Sukuna, would look up, noticing that the two sisters had noticed his awakening. Rem would rub her eyes, having been now sitting in a chair, which was different, having leaned over Subaru this entire night. Ram and Rem would then wake up as they noticed Subaru as well. You didn't die, Barasu. That's good, I guess. Rem would be, on the other hand, ecstatic, saying, "Thank you, Subaru. So sorry that you had to stop me like that. Are you okay?" With Rem now being all flustered that Subaru was awake. She was hoping that his recovery would go smoothly, as she was kind of antsy. Subaru would turn as he looks to Rem, saying that he's fine, with Rem saying, "Okay," as she then gives a smile with the sun flowing over her face. Subaru, imprinting this image into his mind, would then have words come to his throat that he hadn't even planned on saying. Demonic inspiration. Huh? Rem would ask, wondering what he just said, mumbling under his breath. Subaru would quickly realize as he then blushes, saying nothing, as he tries to pull himself up to rip the covers off. As he tries to do so, he can feel his arms go limp, having no strength. Subaru would fall back, his head slamming to the back of the headdresser and then back down to the pillow. Ow! That's a good one. Look at you, trying to move like you just did nothing big. You really tried to pull off my domain expansion and expected nothing to happen? Even though you are technically 1/20th me, that's still only 1 out of the 20 parts. In other words, you just tried to suck up an entire reservoir. No, an ocean with a straw. What do you think was gonna happen? Subaru would feel weak as his head started to spin, as he thought that he was completely resistant to curses. Typically you would be, Sukuna would say, reading his thoughts, but you're not really formally trained as a JuJutsu sorcerer, so it's not like you can actually use your cursed energies efficiently as they could. JuJutsu sorcerer? First time I ever heard you mention that, huh, old man Sukuna? Don't call me an old man. I'm hip with the times. In fact, I just finished reading up on the last novel I have in here that I was saving for later, which means only one thing. What does it mean? That we must find more manga in this world, so I may consume more entertainment. That is, that or your soul. What? Subaru would jump up saying this as Sukuna then says nothing, fading out of his consciousness. Gah, that guy, Subaru would say. Well, at least he didn't take over my body. Rem would then tell him to not move, saying that his body was completely wrecked, almost completely out of stamina. If it wasn't for Beatrice and Emilia having helped heal you, there's no way you'd even be able to move or talk. That's how much magic you used and exhausted your gate. At least, that's what Lady Beatrice says. Subaru would realize, magic? My gate? Subaru in this timeline, for reference, has not actually learned about magic. By this point in the anime, Subaru originally would have learned about Shamak as well as his affinity for dark, which didn't happen because he didn't have the need to do that, since he's been using cursed energy and his own techniques that he had available for him in his previous world. So Puck never really had to tell him or teach him about that, and thus he never learned that he actually had a magic type. Oh yeah, I completely forgot that these worlds generally have some sort of magic, huh? I just thought I'd keep using cursed energy, but maybe I can get another power so I don't have to rely on this guy all the time. Hey, is there a problem with that? Besides, it's not like I can take your body right now anyway. I wouldn't even be able to walk, even with my regenerative cursed power. Screw off. Fine. Your loss. Subaru would then decide that he needs to go and visit Beatrice, with Rem walking him over in a wheeled chair, walking him towards each door as Subaru decides to check it, eventually finding as he then has Rem open the door. Subaru will be rolled in as he then looks for Beatrice, who would be sitting in her chair as usual in front of the door, wondering what he wanted. Subaru, now about to ask if she could actually teach him magic, would immediately be stopped, Beatrice slapping her hand up saying, "Not right now." What? Subaru would ask. Your gate is almost completely wrecked right now. In fact, I'm amazed that it's still together and regenerating so quickly. Most humans can't actually regenerate their gate once they damage it. Recovery mages who can actually heal gates are incredibly rare. So the fact you can sleep it off in just a few weeks or a month is insane. Your biology is crazy from what I can tell, Beatrice would say, huffing. But it's probably because of that damn demon. Sukuna would freeze up thinking, what? Puck, who actually knew about cursed energy, would not be the only one. For those of you who have not read or watched ReZero yet, shame for you, it's a really great show, Beatrice is also a spirit, along with Puck. And as I've already clarified, the great spirits in this world are able to sense cursed energy, with spirit arts being almost on the complete opposite side of cursed energy, with, I guess, reverse curse techniques being the more similar use as spirit arts. So Beatrice can tell that Subaru has cursed energy. So when she brings it up, both Subaru and Sukuna would freeze up, not having any idea what to say to that. She would then huff, saying she doesn't know why or who he is, but she doesn't care or want to know about it, saying as long as he's really protecting them and fighting for Master Roswaal, there's nothing she can really say. He would sigh, with Rem confused, wondering what they were even talking about. Subaru would say it's nothing, saying he'll try and learn magic a different day. Beatrice would turn around huffing, saying, so bold. Well, I'm not teaching you. What? Come on, Bayako, please, Subaru would say, begging, trying to raise his hands to beg before he realizes that he is effectively immobile for now. Beatrice would say once he can actually bow down and lick her boots, maybe she would. Gah, spoiled brat. Whatever. Let's go, Rem, Subaru would say. Beatrice would, as she then slams the door behind them using wind magic. Per Subaru's request, Rem would drive Subaru over to Roswaal's room, where she would help open the door and allow Subaru to meet with Master Roswaal to ask him a few questions. Subaru would ask what happened after he passed out, wanting to know what exactly happened to the mob beasts that were attacking the village and that weird little girl who had the power to control them. Roswaal would then look up, sipping his tea, as he then says, well, that's a mystery for a different time. But you see, the villagers are quite fine. In fact, they'd rather really like to see you, Subaru-chan. What did you just say? Nothing. Subaru would be feeling an odd resonance with Sukuna and Roswaal, both of them being creepy. Okay, Subaru would say. Well, thanks for telling me. I think my next destination is to look for where Emilia is. Oh, I wouldn't do that, Rem would say, commenting that Emilia was probably studying in her room for the royal selection. The royal whatchamacallit? Subaru would ask. Oh, the royal selection, didn't you know about it? The what? Roswaal would allow Rem to explain as Rem decides that she'll take this elsewhere, bowing to Master Roswaal and closing the door before wheeling Subaru back to his room and putting him back on the bed per Rem and Rom's help. Rom begrudgingly, of course. Rem would clear her throat as she then is about to explain the royal selection. remember that little insignia that Lady Emilia and you helped find with you having to fight that weird assassin, the Bowel Hunter, back in the capital? Yeah, now that you mention it, I do remember that. What does that do with anything? Well, you see, actually, that insignia is something rather important to Lady Emilia. It's her recognition that allows her to be one of the 5 candidates to be the next queen and ruler of this kingdom of Lagunica. What? Subaru would think. Emilia's a candidate to be the king of this country? Subaru would be thinking, shocked, as the pieces begin to fall into place why people might be attacking her. What? How did she lose something so important in the first place? Subaru would say, shocked that she could even do that. Emilia elsewhere would sneeze, thinking, someone's talking about me, I think. Subaru would be complaining about how Emilia was actually losing something that important to her. Well, I'm glad she got it back at least. Ren would giggle, saying that Subaru's always like that. Always like what? Subaru would ask, his eyes now long and sharp as usual, narrowing. Always looking out for everyone else. Wow, now that you mention it, I never thought of it like that, Subaru would say. I guess so. Sukuna would then now whisper inside his mind, don't flatter yourself. If anyone's really helping them, it's me and my power. Oh, shut up, Sukuna. You'd probably kill them all if you had the choice. Well, most of them. Although that elf girl isn't exactly a cat girl. She'll have to do for now, since she has her own interests. You're switching to my side, Sukuna? I knew you'd come around to find out that the elf girls are superior. No, that's not what I was... You're impossible. Damn it, never mind. Yeah, I'd kill everyone. See, that's what I was expecting to hear, Subaru would say, nodding. What are you nodding about? Rim would ask. Nothing. Ignore that. The two sisters would look at each other, eyeing as they then look back at Subaru, realizing that their first claim that this guest was a weirdo has remained true even now that they've gotten to know him. You talk to yourself way too much, Ram would say. It's kinda creepy. Hey! As Subaru says this, Emilia would open the door, walking into the room and closing it behind her, as she then walks over to Subaru, now rubbing her eyes, saying she's exhausted from studying. She looks up, seeing Subaru's awake, and is extremely happy, saying, why didn't anyone come tell me that he woke up? Rem and Ron would look up, saying Roswaal had instructed them to allow you to study, with Emilia now making a pouting face. Subaru, are you okay? I saw what happened after I headed down to the village, and I saw you take down Rem and all those demon dogs, just as you passed out. You really wrecked yourself. You gotta take better care of yourself, you know that? Emilia would say. Yeah, I know that, Subaru would say, then trying to scratch his cheek against the side of the bedside, which he realizes he can't do because his arms can't move. Emilia would walk over, doing it for him, as she could tell from what he was attempting to do, before realizing what she was doing and moving away, shocked from the hand of atrocity that her own hand committed against her. Rem would be looking at the two as she's now making her own pouty face, with Ram eyeing her, as she then flips back to her normal look, just staring at the wall, still grumbling. Emilia would then cough as she then clears her throat, saying to Subaru that she actually came here, if he was awake, to tell him about her idea. She'd explain how she'll be actually going to the royal capital pretty soon, and that since he's pretty wrecked, it might be a good idea for him to come along, just to get healed by Felis, one of the royal capital's healer mages. Incredibly strong too, much more potent than her or Lady Beatrice, she whispers the last part. So, as I was saying, you see, a messenger actually arrived earlier while you were still asleep from the royal capital, and they are summoning me as well as the other candidates for the royal selection. So while you're being healed, I'll be over there. Huh? I want to go to that, Subaru would say. In your condition, there's no way, Emilia would say. Unless you can heal all of your broken ribs in the next few days, which should be impossible, I doubt it, Emilia would say. Subaru, now fired up, would be ready as he focuses cursed energy on healing himself, deciding as immediately she says that he's going to bed. Wait for me to finish at least, Emilia would say, then telling Subaru a few more things, explaining that when she goes, if he does go with her, then they're going for separate reasons, and as soon as he heals, then he'll be sent back, even if she's going to be staying there longer. Subaru would look up from the bed, asking why, with Emilia saying that this is something really important for her, and she has to do this alone. Subaru, being the stubborn guy that he is, and from all universes, would now decide that he was definitely going to that royal selection meeting. Anyway, Emilia would then leave, with Subaru having promised her that he would not do anything, even if he could somehow move. Before they leave, Puck would then pop out telling Subaru that Emilia was almost up all night helping recover him so that he wouldn't be, dead. Yeah. He'd pull his eye down. Puck! Emilia would say. Now, mad and flustered, she grabs Puck by the tail and then runs out of the room. Subaru would laugh as he then tries to cover his face, realizing his hand is actually working, as he then touches his face before it goes limp again. Well, I better focus on recovery. Rem, if you two could be so kind, maybe you could get me a large plate of meat? Ram would tell him in his dreams, as Rem then gets up saying she'll be right back. Rem opening the door would walk out as she closes it behind her, thinking about what was that feeling that she felt watching Emilia and Subaru. It was something that she wasn't really quite used to. Something that she thought she had given up a long time ago when she had gone over that her sister was superior to her in every way. Is this jealousy? Rem would push it aside. She then heads towards the kitchen to get Subaru something to eat. As she returns, Subaru would then be fed by her, which was, to her, great enjoyment. Subaru, eventually passing out and falling asleep, would have his cheek brushed by Rem as she smiles, eventually putting the plate back and taking Ram with her as the two head to their own rooms, Subaru now retiring for the night. Subaru in his dreams would be focusing completely all of his cursed energy on healing himself and working on his ribs. This is something that Sukuna would not thought even possible, with him not having enough fingers, with only now 2 having been absorbed, the first one having only been a couple of weeks ago now. There's no way he could use a reverse healing technique at this point. At least, that's what Sukuna would be thinking. Subaru would be focusing on healing his ribs with the ultimate amount of cursed energy. This amount of focus was more similar to, now, meditation than sleeping. And yet, by the time he woke up, he still couldn't move, feeling his ribs aching from the mending that he was doing to them. Emilia would notice, having checked in on him, that they were actually getting better, as she gulped, concerned about what Subaru might have been eating or doing. Whatever. He did make a promise, so I don't think he'll break it, Emilia would think. As promises are incredibly important to spirit arts users, as we all know. Anyway, a couple of days would pass, and so Emilia would notice that Subaru still needed healing, and says that they'll be going to the capital today. Emilia, with now Subaru who can stand with a cane and walk, would follow behind her as they then get into the carriage with a little aid from Rem. Rem would then hop in next to Subaru, as she enjoys the rather tight seating, being directly next to him, as Emilia now feels annoyed for some reason. As the door is shut by Ram would wish them good luck, as she tells Subaru to rest up. Subaru would then stick his tongue out at Ram, saying, "Thanks, you guys be safe here, alright?" Ram would nod, as now Emilia, Rem, and Subaru are on their way to head towards the royal capital. If you guys want to see the next part, which will be covering the Return to the Royal Capital arc, including our battle between Julius and Subaru, as well as Sukuna finally meeting a cat girl, quote-unquote, in this world, which is something you guys have been looking forward to for a while now, and I have something spectacular planned for. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure to hit that like button, comment down below anything you like. We're trying to get 300 likes, and then I'll start working on the script for the next part. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.